When I was a child, I loved the music of Michael Jackson. And this was like in the late 80s, early 90s, so that wasn't weird at all. Me and my friends would put on, Michael Jackson tapes and dance around like idiots and do all the woos. Loved it. So fun. Around this time period, one Christmas, my brother gave me a tape that I didn't know existed at the time. And that was Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, a tape that I still have to this day. This is a two-part movie. The first part is made up of a bunch of like clips and music videos and things like that, where half the time the narrative is Michael Jackson being like, I'm just a normal guy, please leave me alone. Which is funny because he spends the first 45 minutes of this movie being like, I'm a normal guy, the media's demonizing me, everybody relax. And then the second 45 minutes is the most bonkers ass movie you've ever seen. The movie starts off with Michael Jackson and three children in a really idyllic field, dancing around, playing with a soccer ball. There's a dog, they're all having a blast. The movie never explains how Michael and these kids know each other. All you really know is that these are definitely street kids and they love Michael Jackson. You would think that because this is a movie with a script, that they would throw a line in there that would just explain how this grown man came to hang out with these three street orphans. The dog runs off, so they gotta chase after the dog. The dog disappears, and they end up going into this weird, seedy cave, and they follow down a path, and they stumble on Frankie Ladeo, who is the worst drug dealer known to man. Frankie Ladeo is played by Joe Pesci, who plays this character like he's in a Martin Scorsese mob movie. He literally beats up a little girl at one point. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So they're watching Frankie Ladeo. He's literally talking about all his evil plans. His plans are to fill all of the children with heroin because he wants to start his customers out young.
Every kid in this whole world to take drugs because of me. Because of me.
A spider crawls on the little girl's hand. She screams. Frankie Ladeo sees him, and he just starts freaking out. But it's so funny, instead of saying oh, who's that? Go get him, whatever. He just screams. Now it's this chasing Frankie Ladeo, and he's got a million faceless henchmen, and they're all chasing Michael Jackson. They chase him for a really long time, and they eventually back him into an alleyway, and he's got nowhere to go. He's surrounded by all these henchmen with machine guns. He starts to get a weird face on his face and crumple in, and he starts to turn into a car. I didn't recognize the car, but according to Wikipedia, it's a Lancia Stratus Zero. I never would have known that. I didn't recognize the car. In this movie, it's the Lancia Stratus Zero is just a very futuristic, silver-looking car that happens to also be impervious to bullets, and it can fly. And it's also Michael Jackson. All the bad guys go chase after futuristic car Jackson, so the kids go down some alleyway and they end up at a dusty old bar. The kids are poking around in this dilapidated old bar, and they hear a car pull up, so they somehow escape to the roof of the building across the street, apparently. The little girl pokes her head out, and she sees the shadow of a car, and that car turns into a man. And it's kind of rocks her world for a little bit, and the little boys are asking her, what's going on? What's going on? This may be the most believable thing that happens in the movie, because if I saw a car turn into a man, it would probably take me a while to put the pieces of my shattered reality back together. So Michael's back to being a man and not a car. So he walks up to that bar that they were just in, opens the door, and a blast of smoke and white light hits him, and he walks in. The boys are not fazed by this at all. The little girl's a little shocked, but she did see Carman. So now Michael's in this zoot suit speakeasy bar, and everybody's staring at him like he's a troublemaker. And he takes a coin out of his pocket and he flips it into the jukebox from like 50 yards away. And as a kid, this was my favorite part. This part blew my mind. And this kicks off a extended like 10-minute performance of the song Smooth Criminal. He sings some of the song, they do dance numbers, he gets attacked, he beats up people, he tries to get swift with the ladies, and everyone is dancing. About 5 or 10 minutes into this thing, it all simmers down and it gets monochromatic, and all the dancers start like laying on the ground and moaning and yelling, and Michael Jackson's standing in the middle and he's just like shaking his head and stomping his feet. When I was a kid, I had no idea what this was. It didn't make any sense to me. I usually just ended up forwarding through it. And as an adult, I can say that this still makes absolutely no fucking sense, and I have no idea why this part is in this movie. But then that ends and they get back to the normal Smooth Criminal dancing. And now the kids are in the alleyway and they're dancing and having a good time, just like partying real hard. And they're not questioning like why the bar suddenly has people in it, is like a functioning, clean business all of a sudden. But then the drug dealer army comes to break up the party. Michael ends up pulling a machine gun out of nowhere and shoots at him. They steal the little girl. After the drug dealers steal the little girl, the two boys are with Michael Jackson, and one's like, oh, Michael, you gotta help her. You gotta help her. And then the other one's like, what's he gonna do? Motherfucker, this dude just turned into an invincible car and flew away like 15 minutes ago.
Michael, you gotta help her. What can he do?
You'll see what I can do.
He can probably figure something out, you ungrateful little prick. They go to Frankie Ladeo's lair to confront him and get the little girl back. It goes sour really quick. Michael's surrounded. The kids are being held at gunpoint. And then a door opens up and Ladeo comes out and he is fired up.
Shut up! Shut it! Shut up!
He's screaming at everybody. This is the point where he beats the little girl.
You want to know why I'm doing this to you?
Michael gets knocked to the ground. So Michael's knocked down on the ground and he starts to get up, but suddenly he's a robot now? And when he comes up robot, everybody like is like this. So he keeps like morphing and changing into a more powerful robot, and all the bad guys are just staring at him. And then Frankie like screams at him to shoot him, and no, they can't get him. He's got shields. He's a magic robot. So then he takes out all the machine gun guys. Somehow Frankie Ladeo is prepared for robotic Michael Jackson because he has a whole nother army of laser henchmen. The lasers get Michael for a minute, but not for very long, and then he lets out this super-powered Michael Jackson scream, and it blows all their heads up. He also starts shooting everybody with missiles. With all of his henchmen dead, Frank Ladeo runs off like a little rat, and Michael Jackson completes his transformation into a spaceship. Ladeo comes out of the side of the mountain with a space laser. And it is now the ultimate showdown between drug-dealing space laser and Michael Jackson spaceship. And of course, love's always going to beat drugs. And Michael Jackson ends up winning, exploding the entire mountain. With evil defeated, Spaceship Jackson just kind of takes off, and the kids are like trying to touch him, but he's like, nah, see you later, orphans. The kids are sad that he's gone, but they're very accepting that he's gone because he turned into a spaceship and drifted away. And the kids are bumming around for a minute, but then Michael Jackson walks out of a puff of smoke like he didn't just murder 300 people.
Michael!
They're all happy to see each other, and then Michael brings them back to the bar that they did Smooth Criminal in, and he opens the door and they all get blasted with smoke and they walk through. And this is one of those parts that wasn't weird when I was a kid, but is weird now, because they're in like this weird, like creepy basement, and there's like, you know, weird electrical noises and rats running around, and it's real creepy, and the kids like keep asking them where they're going and where are they, and Michael just keeps giggling and saying it's a secret.
It's all this stuff. Don't worry, I'm going to show you something special.
But then suddenly they're backstage at a Michael Jackson concert, and that dog that ran away and started this whole mess just shows back up too. And then Michael Jackson plays Come Together by the Beatles while the kids watch from the side of the stage. And then the movie just ends. I have so many questions about this movie. Maybe the back of the box will answer some of them. Smooth Criminal, the centerpiece of the entire film, based on a story by Michael in which he plays a superhero who pits himself in all his powers against the evil Mr. Big, Joe Pesci, who is attempting to take over the world by getting kids hooked on drugs. In the course of this battle, Michael transforms himself into a robot and then a spaceship that destroys the forces of evil and then vanishes into the heavens, only to return later as Michael for a performance of Come Together. Not once in the movie do they refer to Joe Pesci as Mr. Big. He's Frankie Ladeo the whole time.
Lideo. So simple. Frankie Ladeo.
They also never mention that Michael Jackson's a superhero, but I guess it makes sense because he's turning into cars and spaceships and robots. They don't even mention that he turns into a car on the back of the box. If in this movie Michael Jackson plays a magical superhero, why doesn't he just use his powers to destroy the world's heroin supply? These street orphans must have been through a lot because they are unfazed by all the crazy shit that happens in this movie. At the end, they're smiling and waving glow sticks, just having a good old time. Maybe I'm a wimp, but if I just went through that, I would not be attending a Michael Jackson concert from the side of the stage. What kind of magical vehicle would you turn into? I would turn into a submarine that could fly. It would also have wheels so I could drive. And the exhaust wouldn't be like fumes or smoke or anything. It would be hard-boiled eggs. So then that way when I flew away and abandoned the street orphans I was with, they'd have something to eat. In conclusion, I give this movie 10 out of 10 robotic Michael Jackson spaceships. Any movie where Joe Pesci beats up a little orphan girl is a must-watch, 10 out of 10 must-see cinema classic. Hey, thanks for watching that video. I really appreciate it. If you really liked it, can you really like it and maybe subscribe and ding that bell and do whatever else it is you got to do? And if you want, here's some more videos that you can watch. And then at the end of those videos is going to be this video, because time's an endless circle or whatever.